Well, the final day of our goal setting workshop. Now, I trust you've carried out the various tasks over the last few days and you're ready to begin the final stage of the process. And again, I'm assuming you're trusting the process. Now, what I like to call this is extraordinary goal setting, because it's certainly not ordinary goal setting. Ordinary goal setting that's described in lots of books and, of course, you'll find elsewhere on YouTube right now, is going to tell you, first of all, to be realistic, set goals that are achievable. Let me tell you a big secret. Not a single person that inspired me from history started out with a realistic, achievable goal. And another thing, no one gets out of bed on the Monday morning with a passion for a realistic, achievable goal. The men and women who have always inspired us set out with goals, dreams and aspirations that were truly, truly compelling and inspiring. And in the beginning, we had no idea how they were going to get there. But they knew why they had to get there and why they wanted it. They weren't really concerned about how they're going to get there. What they were into was the fact that when you thought about the thing that really inspired them, it just pressed all the buttons. And what seems to happen, of course, is through history we know that through time, through the constant repetition of going back and, what would they say, I dreamt about it all my life. You've heard that how many times? When people constantly back to that future in their mind of achieving the goal, that inspired them, and through time, listen to this, the people, the places, the opportunities they need to actually achieve their goals seem to come along, and listen to this thing, at the right time. In fact, how often have you heard them say, I was in the right place at the right time? And let me tell you, right now, having done the first 3 days, you're in the right place, absolutely at the right time. I want you to trust the process. And what it begins with in this first phase today is you take those goals that you've written down yesterday, the 30 or whatever. Let me tell you, when I first got into this, I was in my late 20s. I had something like 57 goals, a huge amount, because I was a little boy in a sweetie shop. You know, what I realised was, well, if these techniques work, if this approach works, then I want everything. So there I was, a 29-year-old, and what I did was I set myself goals, impossible goals, like living in a castle, having nice houses, travelling around the world, having amazing holidays, driving the cars of my choice. Listen to this, having a sailboat. I didn't even know how to sail. I got all of those things. I could keep you forever with the stories, and lots of other people, hundreds and thousands of people actually, have shared their own stories with me about how they achieved the impossible goals. And in fact, the very goals last night or yesterday that you wrote down, that you were writing down because you're into that flow of consciousness where you just, made them up. And part of your brain's thinking, I can't have that, this is ridiculous. Those goals that seemed impossible were the ones that most people who use the techniques turn out and say years later, you know what, I got those goals. And that's just the way it works. But what I also knew was, with having 57 goals, that going through the processes and the techniques involved in manifesting them, it kind of seemed absurd. It seemed a little bit obscene. And I wondered if there was an ideal number of goals one should set. And I figured out through time that in fact it was 7. And that would kind of make sense because there's 7 days in the week, there's 7 colours in the rainbow, there's 7 notes in the musical thing. You know, 7's a big number, 7's the number. And what I did was I took my 57 goals and I boiled them down, I reduced them down, as it were, to just 7. I combined a few of them into one. There was 1 or 2 that stood out and I had to have them. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to take the goals that you wrote down yesterday and go through a process of boiling them down, reducing them down to 7. And as you do that, keep in mind your wheel of life, a sense of balance in your life, and get yourself 7. That's the first part of the process. I want you to trust it. Because here's what we found. When people then apply themselves to those 7 goals using the techniques, you know what? All the other goals, they happened as well. It was as if just by going through the process of identifying those 30 or whatever you came up with yesterday, that was enough, provided you carried out the next phase. Again, I want you to trust the process. So you boil them down to 7. What we then do is we have to then do the work on them. Now, the ordinary guys, the guys who set the ordinary goals are going to get you to write out a plan, get your objectives, get it all planned out. Listen, we don't do that. Yes, we will plan through time and things move on, but the work we do in the beginning is to get ourselves nice and relaxed and to go into our mind, into our mind's eye, and to use the word visualise, dream if you like. How often have you heard people say, I dreamt about it all my life? How often have you heard them say they're in the right place at the right time? By the way, after doing 3 days of this, and on your 4th day today, you're in absolutely the right place at absolutely the right time. This is the time to do this. And so the first thing we do now is we have to get those goals into our subconscious. And so in a sense, we have to dream about it, we have to visualize it, we have to actually relax, close our eyes, in our imagination, again, our imagination, right side of our brain, in our imagination, go into the future. And in the future, see yourself with the goal achieved. Sense what it will look like, who'd be involved, what you'd be seeing, what you'd be feeling, what you'd be hearing. And as it were, really get that clarified in your mind. And in your mind's eye, if you like, take a snap photograph, take a picture of it, run the movie, then stop it and just know exactly what it looks like. And you would do that with your 7 goals. And here's the working part of our process, especially in the beginning. The closer there when people said, I dreamt about it all my life. I remember someone famously said to me, I fell asleep dreaming about it, and I wakened up, I was still dreaming about it. What we do, we have the discipline. In that notebook that you've been working with already through this process, is you would write out, take a page if you like, or 2 pages in the notebook for each goal. You would first of all write out what the goal is. You write out the date that you've set the goal, and if you like, you put the date you want to achieve it by. And make sure your left brain's not saying to you, oh well, it will take me 30 years to achieve a goal because your logic's telling you it's impossible. Actually, the date you want to achieve it by is the date you would put down. And you write down the goal fairly clearly. Then what I would urge you to do is to create an affirmation for that goal. Now, an affirmation is a little short sentence that has what we call the 3 Ps. It's a personal statement. It begins with the word I. It is a positive statement, and it is a present tense statement. We state the goal that we want to achieve in present tense as though we already have it. So it begins, for example, I have, I do, I am, whatever it is, and you can end it with the word now if you like. So it's got the 3 Ps. It's a personal statement, begins with I, it ends with now, it's present tense, and in the middle is the positive thing that you want to have, do, or be. Now you write that out, and then what I urge you to do strongly is, and it's easy now with the internet, it's so simple, it's frightening, is just get a photograph of the goal. Of the goal. So if you want that house, you want that car, you want that, but all those kind of boys' toy stuff that I did, then it's easy enough to get photographs. And get a photograph, and if you like, just get a little bit of paper glue and stick it into the notebook. And then once you've done that, just put in write out a description of the detail, because one of the things we know about goal setting is you really need the detail. You need to be very, very specific, not airy-fairy, I'd like more money. Well, if you kind of program, as we call it, if you get your brain to focus on the goal of having more money, then there's a very good chance you'll find 10 pence as you walk along the road today in the gutter, and there's your goal achieved. You need to be very, very specific. How much do you want to achieve? What is the colour of that particular car? What is the model? What is the make? Where is that house? How big is that house? Etc. You get very, very specific. So you specific detail. And then what you do is, in terms of the processing, is last thing at night before you go to sleep, what you do is you open the book at the page and you read the goal. You remind yourself of the goal. You then read the affirmation. You then look at the description, you look at the photograph, and listen to this, you just close your eyes, and if you're a MindStore member, you've done the techniques, and you know the one specific techniques we have, but if you're new to this, don't worry about it, just close your eyes and see yourself with that photograph again of your goal achieved. And then you'd fall asleep. And in the morning when you're waking up, you can think about the day ahead, and if you're a MindStore person, you can program that day, or if you're just new to us, you think the day going the way you want it to go, and you just revisit again very quickly those 7 goals. Just turn the pages, visualise the goal achieved, and that's all you have to do. And then what happens is the people, the places, the opportunities that you need to achieve the goals begin to line up. Now, it does take time. The universe, God, whatever you believe in, that higher power thing, it doesn't just do it instantly. It's not like going to McDonald's and getting an instant burger. It all takes time. The people have got to get into line, the resources, the ideas and so on. Everything you need to achieve the goals will line itself up, and it will take time. But you'll get there, of course, if every night you remind yourself what your goal is and you do that work. That's the work we do in the initial phase. And what also happens is that we would take those photographs and place them in places you would least expect to find them. I would duplicate the photographs, and I have done this. I would stick them, for example, in the kitchen, stick them in the inside of your wardrobe, stick them beside your shaving mirror. I sometimes have to have them in the car. Take copies of these photographs when you least expect to have them. And what they do is they subliminally program you, constantly reminding you of your goals. Now, another thing to do is to actually draw out the goals. One of the things that I did, I remember, I've got lots of my own stories, but one that stands out was a few summers ago, and my wife and I were it was at the end of June, we were looking 6 months into our goals, how we were getting on, reviewing it, and we decided we wanted to set another goal. And the goal was about going to, for example, a place in Australia to check it out, because we kind of fancied it, sort of a travelogue thing, and thought that might be the kind of place we'd like to ultimately settle in. And we kind of decided to create a goal around that. And we went in, or my wife went into the kitchen. We kept a blackboard there on the wall for messages and stuff, and she cleaned the blackboard and wrote up what the goal was, the date that we were setting it. And I actually also outside in the garden against the kind of one of the outbuildings, I had there a big blackboard, a 6 foot by 4 foot blackboard, and I got nice chalks, and I actually drew with the chalks one of the scenes of that location. It's got a particular thing that stands out about it, and I drew that, and I had it there in different colours, took a photograph of it as well, so I had it on my phone, and we did that on the Sunday. And the goal, to be honest, was was quite a big goal. And you know what? On the Thursday, only a few days later, a company in Australia called up and engaged me in a conversation around doing a lot of work with all their staff, hundreds and hundreds of staff at some events they were wanting to do in Australia a few months later. You know what? They flew me out there and my wife. They flew us out, they put us up in fancy hotels, they paid me a lot of nice money, and we went to that location in Australia just because we dared to think it and use the techniques. So you take the photographs, you can do the drawings, place them around so they subliminally program the future to you. And what you'll find is that the people, the places, the opportunities that you need, they just get attracted to you. Now, another thing I've been doing with my goals is we've got into the idea of creating a statement that kind of encapsulates the goal as well. And we use the abbreviations of it. For example, let's say you have a goal to have something. And let's say you want to have that goal, for example, in Paris. So what you would do is, maybe it's a white one, so say the white one in Paris, or the white one at Paris. And what I would do is I'd take the first letter of each word, so the white one, TWO, and then the at sign and the letter P. And then you can put the date, 2015 kind of thing. And what I do with that? I use that as my passwords on the various things I have on the internet. So that every time I put in my password, I'm reprogramming my brain with those little abbreviations. I get into the passwords. And the other thing I do is I get those letters and I'll stick them around the house as well. I go into gift shops and you get those little sort of square tiles kind of thing of letters, Scrabble type words things, and I use those around the house. They're great stuff. You can use them as ornamentation, but they just remind you of the key goals you've got. So there's another wee tool you can use. The thing is to constantly visualise and remind yourself of your goals. You get it down to 7, and what happens is you'll then realise, if you're doing this every night, every morning, that things begin to happen. You'll find that you can write before you go to sleep at night. You can do some journaling on how the day's gone. You can maybe think about the thing you can do the next day that might take you forward. And so you begin to get confidence and you then begin to plan. And more creative ideas come along. And more importantly, if you do this last thing at night and first thing in the morning, you'll find happen is you're waking up sometimes in the middle of the night with fantastic ideas that you can then write down in that notebook too. We used to call this the Nightbook. I got into doing Nightbooks 20 odd years ago. They had profoundly changed people's lives. So you can keep this notebook, keep the Nightbook, keep it by your bedside, and you'll find that you will begin to make progress, and slowly but surely you'll achieve your goals. Now, I wish you the very, very best with this. In the coming year, of course, I will be doing some public courses. I'll do some stuff here online. You can certainly find me on the internet. Obviously, our website, www.mindstore.com. I will do some stuff. I'm pretty certain I'll do some stuff here in terms of digital learning or whatever, to remind people of keep in line with the techniques, to remind themselves of their goals, give you occasional tools and techniques in addition. I'll also, of course, be doing some public courses. We've got the Island event, which will take place in London in March. I will then come back to London, Glasgow and Dublin to do a MindStore event, MindStore course, and of course I'll be working around the world with companies, speaking at conferences and stuff. The first one, in fact, just next week in Dublin. Now, I've taken the 4 days out myself to do these. They're really important to me. I'm setting my goals and going for it. I trust you, I've trusted yourself to do this. And I know, after 20 odd years, 25 years of teaching this stuff, that if you do what I've asked you to do here, and you do the programming, you do the work of visiting in your mind those goals, getting the photographs out there, reciting the affirmations, maybe using a little abbreviations in your passwords and stuff, then I tell you what, you will attract, at the right time, the right ideas, the right people, you'll take the actions, and you'll achieve your goals. It just works. So congratulations for getting this far. Finish the process, and hopefully someday in the future I'll hear from you. All the very best now. I can't wait to get to 2015. I know it's going to be my best year yet, and I know it is for you too. Have a great one. Bye now.